So what I'm gonna go over here is doing some sketches for your symmetry part of your balance project. Okay, because remember you got to turn in one composition that's symmetrical. Okay, remember symmetrical means that it's the same on, it's like the mirror image. It's the same on the left and right side, or it's the same on the top and bottom, or it could be corner to corner. Okay, but that's, it's got symmetry. And the other one will be something that's asymmetrical, but we'll go over that one next. Okay, so you're gonna wanna still do some thumbnails. And again, just like before, like I did with the demo for the designing your letter project, you're gonna wanna make some little rectangles, okay? Because your compositions wanna be roughly 9 by 12. And so it's okay if they're a little more squarish. It's okay if they're, maybe like a little bit of a thinner rectangle, but that 9 by 12 is usually pretty good to stick with. It's pretty easy to keep cutting your paper 9 by 12, or just to get 9 by 12 paper, okay? And so again, you're gonna do some thumbnail sketches, and your final product will be put together using your black, white, and gray shades of paper. That's why you have that pad. With it, it's got like 3 different shades of gray. It does have some white in there and has some black, of course. Okay. And so, I would suggest doing at least, 6 thumbnails is good. You can always do more, but I would probably do like 6. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to come up with 6 completely different designs. Like, that's okay, but, let's say you're working on it and, you're sketching things out, and you end up with something that you kind of like maybe on the second one. Well, you can do new versions of that one and try to refine things. Okay. And so again, portrait mode, landscape mode. I did portrait mode there. And so things you want to think about. Okay, so this needs to be abstract. Like, I don't want it to look like anything. Okay, you're not making a picture, you're not making a landscape, you're not making pretty clouds, you're not making, you're not putting people in there. I want you to just focus on shapes and then different values. And what I mean by different values is just different lights and darks, and that's why you have those different shades of gray. Okay, so you can use some more complex shapes, but I always tell people it's better to start with like circles and squares and triangles and more simple shapes, rectangles, obviously. Start with those just so you can start thinking about placement and size. Okay, so let's say I start over here. One of the mistakes that students will do is they'll start with really small shapes, okay, and they just keep adding things in. Because again, for a lot of us, we're not used to working in a way where we're thinking more about design, and we're thinking more about the size of objects, the placement, trying to balance things. And in some ways, that's what you're trying to do here. Is you're trying to, that is actually the main goal, is to balance a composition. Pleasing arrangement of shapes, pleasing arrangement of size of shapes, and, again, getting everything to kind of work together, okay? So, again, like I said, I remember the same thing as a student, thinking like, oh, abstract's stupid and, it makes no sense. I'm just going to throw in a bunch of random stuff. And that's not really how it works. Because if you start doing that, like let's just say even I'm going with like simple shapes. I start doing, squares and circles and triangles and, this kind of thing. And, even if I'm trying to get some kind of symmetry there, but I start just putting everything in, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm keeping symmetry. There's a circle, there's my triangles, there's a square in the middle. What I'm doing here. Okay, and if you notice, what's happening is it's actually taking me quite a bit of time, and I haven't really gotten much going on. See, everything's too small. Okay, there's no push and pull. There's no depth. You want some things that feel a little closer, some things that feel further away, and so by changing the scale of things, that's one thing that does it. The other thing you might notice too is that You know, nothing is touching, like these two, I made them touch the edge of the paper, but really they're all just sort of floating in space. And again, that doesn't add any depth because you don't have multiple layers. You don't have something closer and then something behind that and something behind that and then like a background behind that. Okay. And the other thing that will happen is that when you put in a bunch of teeny tiny shapes, you know, it takes a long time to fill up the space enough to where it doesn't feel too empty. You know, you don't really want to do that. I always say there's two ways to fill up the space. One way is to keep throwing more things in there, and then the other way is to make the objects bigger. Okay, so it's like if you're photographing something and you zoom in more on it, it's going to fill up the frame better, right? If you zoom way out, it's not going to fill up the frame as much. So it would take more objects to make that frame pleasing. So it's a good idea to start with larger shapes first and then work your way to small. See, again, it's too small. I'd be here forever throwing in shapes. And what happens is it starts looking like a chaotic mess. And again, there's, if everything's too small, it'll read more like a texture, and there's nothing that kind of stands out. You always want something that stands out a little more. It creates a sense of a focal point, or the word is like something that's dominant in the picture and the image. You want to, so you want to have different sizes. So let's see, I'm just going to resketch the same rectangle here below. Okay. Okay, so first thing I started with on this one was a square, and you know what, I can do that here too, but I'm going to do something more like this. And so remember, on this one, the idea, this first assignment, or this first balance assignment, the idea is to create symmetry, okay? So if you put something, if everything is kind of like surrounding the middle, that's what's going to do it. So like, since I threw this in the middle, I'm already having symmetry, right? The rectangle itself had symmetry, okay? Like this rectangle, okay? Left and right, top and bottom are the same, okay? So again, what happens with this one is that me throwing something in the middle, you can see, again, left and right, top and bottom are the same. And so anyways, I threw that in there. I could have put something else in there. I could have put a shape in a different spot, but you can see I started out with something large, okay? And then, I don't know, I think the next thing, I think I put a circle or something like that, I think was next. Well, I could do a circle. How about I do this? Okay, so look, the idea then is the circle is so huge that it got cut off the page. Okay, and so I don't know how good of a circle I drew here, but there you go. See, it's so large, it get cut off the page. Okay, and then, we'll put another one on the bottom to kind of copy what I did there. Okay, and to be honest, this probably isn't going to be a very good sketch, a very good, I don't think it's going to balance that well, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of how you can throw in objects and keep symmetry, and again, like I said, have things that are a lot larger, okay? And so, I don't know, I think I put that triangle in next, and you know what I might try to do this time? I think I might just try to put one in over here, so I'll do something like this. Okay, and so again, I don't think this looks, like a great design. It's, I'm just kind of throwing some things in there. But you can see I have all of 1, 2, 3, 4 shapes, and then some empty space. And you can see how much more full the frame looks now, okay? And remember, you don't need to clutter tons of things in there. But you want, again, you want the space efficiently used. You want it, you don't want a ton of empty space. Okay, so again, I don't really like this one, okay? Which is fine. Again, what I was trying to show there is that by going with something much larger to start with, I can end up with something that is already starting to work better than what I had there. Okay. And so, again, I'm just going to kind of sketch real quickly, and I don't know, I think I might do sort of an inverted symmetry on this one. And so you can see what I try to do is have these overlap like I did over there. Like this is going to read like it's behind the other ones. Okay. And actually I might put no, actually I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to put, again, sort of like a rectangle. They got cut off the page. Okay, and again, you can see that's what I'm kind of thinking of it as, is some kind of rectangle that got cut off the page. And the reason I did that was once I threw these in here, and there was a lot of weight there, a lot of stuff to look at there, or a lot compared to like an empty rectangle. So I felt like I needed to throw something in there. Okay. And I've established this as having already like some larger shapes. So from here, I could still put in some larger shapes, but I could start going, working my way towards small shapes. Okay, so I don't know, let's say, maybe, I don't know, I'll put like a circle. Maybe I'll do this. This might actually look kind of cool. So let's do this. Okay, and really I could erase the inside. And I don't know how well this is going to work, but we'll see. And let's see, yeah. And in terms of getting these aligned exactly right, I think I'd have to play around with it more. I don't feel like I got these aligned as well as I should. I know, I'm still mostly keeping symmetry. I remember when you make this, not everything has to be exactly the same. You want, even like near symmetry, something that's really close is fine. So if your shapes are like slightly different, it's okay. I'm not gonna give you a hard time about that. Okay, so again, I kind of added some big shapes there. And I'm probably getting a little bit too many already, but now I could, I don't know, I could do something where it's like these little small shapes. Okay, and so that's supposed to be a triangle, really is what that's supposed to be. I had it there, and so it's kind of still doing this sort of this inverted thing. Like a playing card, a poker card. Okay. And again, it's okay to add some more things in there. You don't want to go too crazy. That's something I always have the bad habit of doing. I might already have too many shapes in here. Yeah, if you go too crazy, then what happens is it's kind of overwhelming to look at. Like you have a hard time figuring out where to start and where to focus, and it's a weird thing when we see stuff like that. So I like a lot, most of graphic design, like logos, they're very simple and clean. It's, they really think about what direction they want your eye to move in on the page, and where they want you to focus. With graphic design, most of the time the designs are relatively simple. Okay, so let's say I'm there, and again, I can do more sketches if I want to. It could be that maybe I liked what I had here, and maybe I want to do another version of it. Okay, and so like I said, once you find something you like, you can keep messing around with it. So maybe I'll go even, I don't know, a little bit larger and like thinner, or I'll go out further and thinner with that. And so then this one's going to be kind of the same thing. It's going to go over a little more. So I got to change that one, because again, I'm trying to keep symmetry. Okay, I have those little thin pieces, and maybe what I'm going to do is maybe I'll kind of angle, make like a V shape. And so then that's going to happen here. Okay, and so I can still add the circle. Maybe I'll go a little smaller with the circles. You can see I'm just kind of reworking the same design. And then now, like these little triangles, I think I'll go a little bit bigger. So this one should come out of there. And you see I'm just sketching with pencil. I would do that. I would sketch with graphite pencil. You can always go over things with ink if you want to. But again, I've got, a couple of sketches. There's some things I like more about this one. There's some things I like a little bit more about this one. I kind of like the circles being larger, but I like how all these forms back there work together better. So I think I might just try making these circles bigger. And again, something I can play around with still as I draw it. I'm not going to draw too much more. I would encourage you to, keep playing around with the design until you get something you like. And just try to keep this demo video less than an hour. All right. Jokingly, I'm not going to make it that long, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit shorter. Okay, so let's just say let's say I like that one, and that is the one I want to go with. Okay, so I've done at least 6 different sketches, or I've reworked it to where I've got at least 6 different sketches, even if it's the same design, and I just keep playing around with. Okay, and like I said, I used simple shapes, but you guys you're all free to do more complex shapes. Just remember, on this one, you're going to be cutting them out of the black, white, and gray paper. So if you pick, if you draw a really complex shape, it's harder to cut that out with the scissors or the X-Acto blade. And again, I want you to think more about placement and size. So, again, I've got overlap. These are kind of the closest ones. And then, sort of in between here is the negative space. This is kind of the mid-ground and so on, okay? So, again, you're gonna add value to this. I don't want you using color. We're not gonna do color just yet. I want you to focus more on just value, different shades of gray and black and white. So, you're gonna want some things to be dark. And, in some ways, I feel like it might be better if these are black. This is where you could use your pencil like I'm doing, or you could use your ink pens. I just kind of want to go with a pencil first, so in case I really don't like it, I can start messing with it and change it up. So I got some black there, and I think what I'm going to probably want to go with is making these 2 black. And so it's something to think about when you're choosing the different values, and this goes when you're working with color eventually too, is that you want to spread things out. Like if I only made everything in this corner like super black and then really dark, say black and dark gray, and then I made everything over here like light grays and white, it's going to feel out of balance. Then my eye's going to get drawn over here too much because that's where the dark objects are. So if I spread them out, so even though I have these in the middle, I kind of, just my first instinct is to fill those in a little bit darker, okay? I want these 2 to stand out from each other. So, maybe this will be white, and then maybe this is more like a dark gray. So I'm going to try to do is not shade that in as dark. Okay. There's this one back here. And I don't know, again, maybe this is like a light gray. And then this one in the corner, again, maybe like a middle gray. And this is where you kind of work on how much pressure you push down with, or also how much you space your lines apart. Until I'm just kind of doing little lines. Okay. And then that background, and usually I like having a white background. So like this would be on white paper because it helps, that empty negative space feel like it's further away. But I mean, it could be, the background could be like a gray, it could be black. In this case, I think I want to keep it white. And then I had mentioned on the assignment, I have a little blurb about it, but if you get something out of a newspaper where there's text, even out of a magazine, it's just the words that are printed. You can use that a lot of times as like a texture. And so, I could do that here, or I could just use one of the tones. Some of the examples I showed had that, where you could see they just cut, parts out of like a newspaper where the words were, and then the words acted like a texture in there. But anyway, so there we go. So then, and this is where I'm almost wondering, I kind of want to throw something else in here. And so kind of like the idea of maybe the corners being really dark, and then it adds this symmetry to where you got this diagonal, and your eye kind of moves around this way. These in the middle are really dark. Okay, and so, and you can see I added something else there at the end, and that's okay. And even when you go to make the full-size one that's 9 by 12, and you're actually cutting the different shades of gray and different, the black and white paper out, things will change a little bit there too. You don't want it to change dramatically. Like the size of this compared to the rest of the space, the rest of the rectangle, I want that to stay relatively close. I don't want to make this 9 by 12 rectangle and I've got this little teeny tiny circle in the middle. It doesn't look the same. So whatever's working in here, in terms of like size and position and value, you want that to translate into the big one, but it's okay to have some smaller changes. And so let's see here. Again, I'll darken that up, and and again, if I didn't like that, I could sketch a whole nother one. And I'm not sure I'm really liking that one that much. Probably have too many things in there. And so I don't have to start it exactly the same way. Okay. I do like the circles. I kind of like the little dark squares in the corner. And I like this diagonal form. So again, there's not really one specific way to do this. There's some ways that don't really work as well. But once, again, once I've got the sketch, I can kind of readjust my approach to it a little bit more. So like I said, I'll, mess with that, and and so then instead of having all these different shapes, I might just have something like that. And actually, I almost might split it up that way. Okay. And we might even go a little bit larger. Like I said, who knows how this is going to look? It might turn into a total mess. It may not. But that's how I would approach this. Okay. And so you are going to want to submit your thumbnail sketches with these two. And it's a good idea to get feedback from me before you really jump into doing the full-size one. But that's how I would start. So remember, don't have too many small shapes. Start with bigger shapes and work your way towards small. Symmetry is, again, it's all about it being kind of a mirror image. So again, you're going to be corner to corner, just sort of what I was doing a version of that, and left and right symmetry, and top and bottom, I guess is more what it was, and yeah, have different size objects. So you do want some small ones, smaller shapes in there, but you want some big. You want to start with the big ones first, and then work your way towards small, and then just like I did, using a pencil, just sketch in some different values, dark and light, and keep playing around with it. Okay. But yes, you're going to want to get some feedback from me before you start the final one, just so you can get some minor tweaks, minor tweaks to make it work a little bit better for you before you officially start the final one.